Talk about a delay. This video was meant to come out 2 weeks ago, but then a couple of things happened. First of all, I intentionally wanted to hold off a couple of days from making this video to see if the trap cards from this archetype will be adapted in the real game. Turns out the answer is no, even at the point of making this video now. And another thing is I had to go to the dentist to have one of my teeth removed. So yeah, that took a bit of recovery time, and since I had my stitches out yesterday, I'm finally ready to fully dive into this new Vrains era archetype that was adapted, the G Golem archetype, the Earth Ignis archetype used by, well, the Earth Ignis, who is coincidentally known as Earth. And yeah, this will be a very short video consisting of 2 main deck monsters, 4 link monsters, and a spell card. It would be 3 more trap cards if every card that was used in the anime was adapted, but we'll just have to settle with this for now. Anyway, G Golems are Earth Cybers monsters who focus on, a lot of link spamming by using very few monsters. Well, token spawners is what you might think, but they're mostly like, in the show at least, they were a control-centric build. Well, in the real game, I presume they're going to be a nice little Cybers tech option, if not a full-fledged engine for other archetypes, or the other archetypes are going to be engines for this set of cards. But anyway, let's take a look at their first card, which is G Golem Pebble Dog. A level 2 Cybers with 300 attack and 1000 defense, and if it's normal or special summon, you can either special summon another Pebble Dog from your deck or add it to your hand from your deck. And also you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Cybers monsters, and if this card is sent from the hand to the graveyard, you can add a G Golem card from your deck to your hand, and you can only use each effect once per turn. So here we have a card which perfectly encapsulates the very pleasant splashability of this archetype. Earth is the second most popular monster attribute right next to Dark. We have a simple play starter with, upon being normal or special summon, can either special summon another copy of itself or add it to your hand. And the hand effect is important because you can either save it for a later day when you want to add another G Golem card from your deck to your hand, or you can just keep the flow going, since the lowest link monster the archetype can go into, well, the archetypal kind, link 2 monsters, and the archetype does have 2 link 2 monsters. So yeah, Pebble Dog is an undisputed 3-off, and yeah, should never be ran at any less than that. And about the same can be said about their final main deck monster and main deck card, G Golem Rockhammer. This is a level 6 with 1800 attack and 2400 defense. And if this card is in your hand, you can discard one other Cybers monster, reduce this card's level by 2 until the end of this turn. You contribute this card, special summon 3 G Golem tokens, which are Cybers Earth level 1 with 0 attack and defense in defense position. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of the turn except Cybers monsters. You can only use each effect once per turn. Very interesting how they adapted this guy into the real game, seeing how the level reduction effect was not present in the anime version, and Earth had to use cost down in order to basically normal summon this guy without tributing, and then tribute him in order to get 3 tokens in order to go into one of their link monsters, which we'll get into in a minute. But yeah, I kind of like how they adapted this thing in order to mimic said effect with whole discarding a Cybers monster in order to reduce this card's level. And of course, the said monster can be Pebble Dogs, which can be used to search out another Pebble Dog or their spell card or another Rockhammer, whatever you might need at the moment. So yeah, running 3 of these is always appreciated. And now we move on to the extra deck finally with their first Link 2 monster, G Golem Crystal Heart, which to this day sports one of my favorite summonings in all of Yu-Gi-Oh! The atmosphere was just so grand. I talked about it a lot in, I think, my top 10, one of my top 10 lists. I'm trying to remember which ones. I think they were actually, there were multiples of them where I talked about it. But anyway, back to the subject at hand, it's a Link 2 monster with 0 attack, arrows pointing left and down, requires 2 Cybers monsters in order to be summoned, and it's a water monster because, of course, this monster was given to Earth by Aqua, and it would later become the Marinsys Crystal Heart for the Marinsys archetype. But anyway, its effect is that you can target one Earth Link monster in your graveyard, special summon it to your zone discard points to, and if you do, place one G Golem counter on this card. You can only use this effect of G Golem Crystal Heart once per turn. An Earth monster co-linked to this card gains 600 attack for each G Golem counter on this card. It can make a second attack during each battle phase. Also, if it attacks a defense position monster, inflict piercing damage to your opponent. Okay, so as we'll see later on, some of their later Link monsters love being in the graveyard, and G Golem Crystal Heart is obviously meant to be summoned either second in order to fetch that monster back from the graveyard, or be used as a starter and then go into all the other Link monsters in order for you to later crash them into the opponent's monsters in order to get them into the graveyard. Then use this thing to revive them with the additional 600 attack, providing that protection effect and basically turning this archetype into the archetypal nightmares. Well, they're all the Earth Cybers version of nightmares, which is honestly very interesting. Well, I'll explain more when I get to their Link 3 monsters, but for now, this is also a very good card and should always be run at least 2 copies. Their other and final Link 2 monster is G Golem Stubborn here. It requires 2 Earth monsters this time and has 1500 attack, arrows pointing up and down. And if this card is special summoned from the graveyard, you can target one Earth monster in your graveyard that can be normal summoned or set, add it to your hand, or special summon it. But if you special summon it, negate its effects, also banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of G Golem Stubborn here once per turn. Not the most offensive of the guys, but Link 2 with 1500 attack is always appreciated. It always can be a bit higher when it comes to Link 2s, but this is basically our recovery item on steroids, and you can basically. It's a shame about the effect negation thing because this would otherwise it would enable Rockhammer to become a very potent link machine, a link generating machine. But anyway. As far as revival monsters goes, this can actually give Crystal Heart that additional push it needs in order to have a Link 3 or Link 4 monster under it. And speaking of Link 3 monsters, here's G Golem Invalid Dolmen, their primary boss monster. And it's a Link 3 monster with arrows pointing up, left, and right, 2800 attack, and requires 2 or more Earth monsters. And your co-linked monsters are unaffected by monster effects activated on your opponent's field. Your opponent's monsters must attack this card if able. Once per turn, you can discard one Cybers monster, draw 1 card. If this co-linked card is destroyed, you can negate the effects of all face-up cards your opponent currently controls. Jesus Christ, how much oppressive can you actually get? First of all, a pure monster effect immunity, to all monsters that are co-linked, including non-G Golem monsters, and also the evil hero Malicious Fiend battle phase lockout, a simple mulligan effect at the cost of discarding one Cybers monster, which can trigger Pebble Dog's effect. And if all of this wasn't enough, the thing has a floating effect, which is not once per turn, where it negates the effects of all face-up cards your opponent controls, and the negation is even permanent. So, yeah, this is by far one of the most oppressive archetypal primary boss monsters that I've ever seen. So, yeah. And not to mention that summoning this thing can be super easy, and not to mention that if Crystal Heart summons it, it's it's even better as it becomes a 3400 attack Link 3 beatstick, which is absurdly powerful. So yeah, G Golem Invalid Dolmen is basically the be all end all boss monster for the archetype, even though we still haven't talked about their last monster, and that is G Golem Dignified Trialathon. Okay, first of all, I gotta comment on this thing's artwork because this thing has never had its anime artwork revealed, and you can clearly see that this artwork is just a refurbished screen cap of when it was summoned in the anime in the one duel that it appeared in, which was Earth's duel against Go Onizuka. And anyway, it has 3200 attack, which is pretty beefy for a Link 4 monster, and arrows pointing up, down, left, and right, and it also requires 2 or more Earth monsters, just like Invalid Dolmen. And your opponent's monsters must attack this card if able, just like Invalid Dolmen, and once per battle, before damage calculation, if this card battles an opponent's monster, you can send 1 Earth monster from your hand to the graveyard. Until the end of this turn, the opponent monster loses 200 attack. Also negate its effects. When your opponent activates a card or effect that targets a Link monster you control, quick effect, you can negate that effect, and if you do, destroy that card. You can only use this effect of G Golem Dignified Trialathon once per turn. Not as oppressive as Invalid Dolmen, but not bad either. It has the same malicious fiend, the malicious fiend battle phase lockout, which is pretty nice, all things considered. The 200 attack losing is by far one of the most insignificant effects I've seen on a card. So yeah, Guard Hall would be very proud. And yeah, it has some quick spot negation, which is always appreciated. But in terms of overall power housing, I think it doesn't even compare to Invalid Dolmen. I mean, sure, if you have both of them out on the field, it's a pretty oppressive duo. But Invalid Dolmen should be your prime. Objective, and not to mention if you're playing an extra Link variant, feel free to main a few Tri-Gate wizards along with them, so you get the maximum benefits of this oppressive play. Run 1 or 2 of these, it doesn't tend to hurt. And their final card is the spell card Gravity Balance. This card is always treated as a G Golem card because obviously Pebble Dog has to search it. And target 2 of your Earth monsters with the same name that are banished and or in your graveyard. Special summon both in defense position, but change their attack and defense to 0. Their effects are negated. Also destroy them during the end phase. If a G Golem monster you control will be destroyed by battle or an opponent's card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, and you can banish this card from your graveyard instead, and you can only use this effect of Gravity Balance once per turn. So this card is basically the product of Goki Rematch and Return of the Dragon Lord spending a lovely Saturday night together and producing this thing and slapping a G Golem moniker on it, because this is honestly what this thing does. It special summons 2 G Golems, which you can use for Link plays, and it also protects G Golem monsters from battle and card effect destruction, which is pretty mandatory and standard for such revival cards of this day and age, I would say. So yeah, but the only drawback is that the special summon monsters have to have the exact same name, which can be a bit of a kick in the nuts, but hey, Pebble Dog is the most reliable target to actually pull from this thing, and not to mention Pebble Dog himself can set this card up perfectly and search it. So yeah, running any less than 3 of these is absolutely not advisable. Anyway, let's talk about grades now that we're at the end of the video. In terms of consistency, they're Earth monsters, and the Earth has quite a lot of brilliant support when it comes to actually getting to your stuff. Pebble Dog is actually a very good searcher. Rockhammer can summon 3 tokens to go into Link monsters, plenty. Gravity Balance has that revival effect, and while it's not much, it's certainly able to push it to at least a 2 out of 3. In terms of power, well, Invalid Dolmen paired with Crystal Heart is simply amazing, and not to mention Dignified Trialathon. Also, Dignified Trialathon is also there. That's an insane power. Not to mention that Earth monsters can also have some additional support when it comes to dishing out some additional power. Again, not too amazing, but I will give it a generous 2 out of 3 as well. Comeback ability is probably the weakest aspect here, because the lack of cards really makes it hard for this deck to come back from a beatdown, because some of the comeback cards are most likely going to be used up on play extensions and versatility, so we don't have much to work with here, so unfortunately that's a 1 out of 3. In terms of protection, there are traces of it, and Dignified Trialathon is the most versatile protection when it comes to protection. Crystal Heart is also there. There's also the gravity balance graveyard effect. Again, there are traces of it, but it's not too consistent, but I am feeling generous, so I will give it a 2 out of 3. Now, in terms of versatility, that's a pure 3 out of 3, because a monster which contributes itself in order to summon 3 tokens is simply an amazing way of generating versatility, and the only thing it basically forces you to do is to summon Cyberse monsters for the rest of the turn, and pure Cyberse link spam decks are probably going to have a field day with this archetype, so yeah, that's a pure 3 out of 3 when it comes to versatility. And that would basically conclude the story for G Golems, another Reigns era archetype that got adapted. So yeah, in terms of Reigns era archetypes, there are only 3 of them, I think, left that are left as anime exclusive. We have the remaining 2 Ignises, Lightning and Windy, with their Armatus Legio and Storm Rider archetypes, all cyber spammers of their corresponding attribute, Light and Wind. And we also have Blood Shepherd's drones, and yeah, those are machines, so yeah, machine dupe's gonna be a major part there. Oh, actually, there are quite a few, actually. There are Motor Worms and the Dark Mummies and what was the archetype that was used by Dr. Genome called? I can't remember the evolution thing with the Link 2 monster that can summon itself from the graveyard for basically no cost, and basically would kind of be the reason why Firewall Dragon could go back into the ban list once again. So yeah, I honestly, those 6 archetypes are the ones that are left, and the first 3 are a bit bigger, while the other 3 with the Revolver's 3 henchmen are basically pack filler-ish, maybe. Well, yeah. Anyway, whatever archetype may get adapted next, I'll be sure to look at it just like this one. So anyway, thank you all so much for watching. Stay tuned for more videos and updates. Comment, like, and subscribe. Be sure to check out my Patreon when you got the time. Maybe drop a few donations if you feel like it. And as usual, I'll upload the next vid, whenever I can. So see you all and have a good day. Peace.